String instruments. When you look at a string instrument, the first thing you will probably notice is that it's made of wood. So why is it called a string instrument? The bodies of the string instruments, which are hollow inside to allow sound to vibrate within them, are made of different kinds of wood. But the part of the instrument that makes the sound is the strings, which are made of nylon, steel, or sometimes gut. The strings are played most often by drawing a bow across them. The handle of the bow is made of wood, and the strings of the bow are actually horsehair from horses' tails. Sometimes the musicians will use their fingers to pluck the strings, and occasionally they will turn the bow upside down and play the strings with the wooden handle. The strings are the largest family of instruments in orchestra, and they come in four sizes: the violin, which is the smallest, viola, cello, and the biggest, the double bass, sometimes called the contrabass. The smaller instruments, the violin and viola, make higher pitched sounds, while the larger cello and double bass produce low, rich sounds. They are all similarly shaped, with curvy wooden bodies and wooden necks. The strings stretched over the body and neck and attached to small decorative heads, where they are tuned with small tuning pegs. Violin. The violin is a baby of the string family, and like babies makes the highest sound. There are more violins in the orchestra than any other instrument. There can be up to 30, and they are divided into two groups, first and second. First violins often play the melody, while second violins alternately between melody and harmony. A typically sized violin is around 24 inches, 2 feet long, with a slightly longer bow. You play the violin by resting it between your chin and left shoulder. Your left hand holds the neck of the violin and presses down on the strings to change the pitch, while your right hand moves the bow or plucks the strings. The range of the violin. The violin has 4 notes that can be played open, one for each string, from low to high: G, D, A, and E. Here is what the 4 open strings look like on the picture. The above notes are from left to right, also the lowest to highest. Parts of the violin and their functions. Just as you need to know what the pedals do on a car before you drive it, the same can be said for the individual parts of an violin. You should know that there are 4 strings, what to do with the pegbox, and what the fingerboard is for. The main parts of the violin are easy to recognize and remember because they are named just like parts of a human body. A violin has a neck where the strings run along, a belly, the front of the violin, a back, and ribs, the sides of the violin. The other parts of the violin might be harder to recognize, so here is a breakdown. Scroll. The scroll is located at the top of the violin, above the pegbox. It is a decorative part that is usually hand-carved into a curved design. Pegbox and tuning pegs. The pegbox is where the tuning pegs are inserted. This is where the strings are attached at the top. The end of the string is inserted into a hole in the peg, which is then wound in order to tighten the string. The pegs are adjusted to tune the violin. Nut. Under the pegbox is the nut, which has 4 grooves for each of the strings. Each string sits in one of the grooves to keep the strings evenly spaced. The nut supports supports the strings so that they are at a good height from the fingerboard. Strings. A violin has 4 strings that are tuned a fifth apart to the following notes G, D, A, and E, from lowest to highest. Strings can be made from different materials such as aluminium, steel, and gold, as well as animal intestines. Fingerboard. The fingerboard is a strip of wood glued onto the neck of the violin underneath the strings. When a violin is placed, the player presses down the strings on the fingerboard, thus changing the pitch. Sounding post. The sounding post is located under the bridge. It supports the pressure inside the violin. The bridge and sounding post are directly related when the violin vibrates. The bridge body and sounding post vibrates as well. F-holes. The F-holes are located in the middle of the violin. It is called an F-hole because the hole is shaped like a cursive F. After the vibration from the strings reverberates within the body of the violin, the sound waves are directly out of the body through the F-holes, altering the F-hole, such as its length can affect the sound of the violin. Bridge. The bridge supports the strings at the lower end of the violin. The position of the bridge is essential as it directly relates to the quality of sound produced by the violin. The bridge is held in place by the strings tension. When the strings vibrate, the bridge also vibrates. The bridge of the violin comes in varying angles of curvature. A small angle makes it easier to play 2 or 3 strings at the same time. More curved bridge make it easier to hit the right notes without scraping across a wrong string. The bridge also has ridges on it that help to space the strings out evenly. Tailpiece. The tailpiece holds the strings at the bottom of the violin, close to the player's chin, and it is attached to the violin with the end pin and a small button on the bottom of the violin. Chin rest. While playing, the violinist can use his chin to hold the violin in place. Both hands can be freed up, one hand to move up and down the fingerboard and the other to use a bow. Viola. The viola is a string instrument that is bowed, plucked or played with varying techniques. It is slightly larger than a violin and has a lower and deeper sound. Since the 18th century, it has been the middle or alto voice of the violin family, between the violin and the cello. The strings of it is tuned as C, G, D, and A. Cello or violoncello. Cellos are tuned in fifth, starting with C, 2 octaves below middle C, followed by G, D, and then A. It is tuned in the exact same intervals and strings as the viola, but an octave lower, unlike the violin or viola, but similar to the double bass. The cello has an end pin that rests on the floor to support the instrument's weight. The cello is mostly closely associated with European classical music. The instrument is a part of standard orchestra as part of string section. and is the bass voice of the string quartet. Although many composers give it a melodic role as well as being part of many other chamber groups, and also we can take it as a solo instrument too. Double bass. The double bass, also known simply as the bass or by other names, is the largest and lowest pitched bow or plucked string instrument in the modern symphony orchestra, excluding unorthodox additions such as the octabass. It is 60 inches in length. The double bass has a similar structure to the cello. It provides the bass line of the orchestral string section, and also used in jazz and some country music. Thank you.